Here's something the headline doesn't show you. Montgomery County sits at 4 months of inventory in May 2026. That's a balanced market, right between the 3 thresholds where sellers have leverage and the 6 mark where buyers take over. So the story you're probably hearing is that things have cooled off, buyers have some room, and sellers need to be realistic. That story is true for some neighborhoods, but completely false for others. What nobody's breaking down for you is that this county contains pockets selling over list price in under 2 weeks, and other pockets where sellers are accepting nearly 18% below their asking price. Those two realities exist in the exact same county in the same month. And if you're using the countywide number to make your decision, you're navigating with the wrong map. Our team works with nearly 200 families every year across Montgomery County. We ran data from every neighborhood we have for this month, and what I'm about to show you will change the way you think about this market. Let's get into it. Let's start with the full county picture because understanding this baseline is what makes everything else make sense. Across all Montgomery County single-family sales in May 2026, and I'm using a month prior just to give you the full picture because sometimes agents don't report the data until well into the first of the month, okay? So May 2026, months of inventory is 4. The median sales price is $369,990, and the price per square foot is $168.98. Homes are selling at 97.1% of list price on average. But now here's where it gets interesting. The average days on market is 84 days. That sounds slow, right? But the median days on market, the midpoint, meaning half of all sales close faster than this, is 45 days. That 39-day gap between average and median tells you something really important. There is a long tail of homes sitting on the market for a very long time, pulling the average up. Meanwhile, the other half of homes are moving in 45 days or less. And the failure rate, the share of resolved listings that did not sell, is 45.8% countywide. Almost half. Think about that. Nearly half of the sellers who listed in Montgomery County in May did not sell. That is not a hot market story. But it's not a uniform story either. When you go neighborhood by neighborhood, some of these failure rates look completely different. If you're trying to figure out which specific pocket of Montgomery County actually fits your budget and your situation, I do have a free guide in the description that walks through how to read these numbers for your own search. Grab it and keep it open while we go through these neighborhoods. Okay, so that was the county. Now let's go neighborhood by neighborhood and show you the two worlds hiding inside it. World one is the seller's market that nobody is talking about. Let's start with Chapel Run. Chapel Run is a neighborhood sitting at deep seller territory of inventory in May 2026. 0.8. So that is a seller's market. That is a very tight seller's market. So anything below 3, like I mentioned earlier, is considered seller's territory. 0.8 is nowhere near that line. The median sales price in Chapel Run is just over $246,000, and the price per square foot is $130.83. Homes are selling in an average of 28 days with a median of just 17 days. Now here's the number that surprises people. The sale to list ratio in Chapel Run is 83.8%. So sellers getting just about 84% of their list price in a neighborhood with deep seller territory of inventory. That's a real contradiction. With that little supply, you'd expect buyers to pay close to list price. The data here though says sellers may be significantly overpricing. The underlying demand is there. The absorption rate is a meaningful percentage, meaning more homes sold than were listed, but buyers are still negotiating hard on price. Now the failure rate in Chapel Run is 38.1%. So while demand is clearly present, sellers who miss price are still getting burned. The takeaway here, if you're buying in Chapel Run, the low inventory means you don't need to move, but you also have some negotiating room on price if the seller listed too high. If you're selling, price it right from the start. Overpriced homes are sitting. But here's where it gets a little more complex. Look at Cliffstone Hills. Cliffstone Hills has a deep seller territory of inventory, even tighter. Only 4 active listings right now. The median sales price is $262,000. Price per square foot is $134. The days on market here are actually striking, an average of 152 days and a median of 139 days. That's nearly 5 months of sitting before closing. Now, it is important to note these neighborhoods both have quite a bit of new construction, so that is important to factor in because all the new homes are not always listed on MLS. And sometimes it might be a home that the builder is deliberately leaving as an inventory home for the time being. But still, in Cliffstone Hills, the sale to list price ratio is 99.8%, so the sellers and the builders are getting almost exactly list price. This is one of the most unusual data patterns in the whole county this month. Very little inventory, homes sitting for a very long time, and sellers holding firm on price. The absorption rate is a meaningful percentage, meaning more homes closed than were actively listed. That tells you that some of this inventory was inherited from prior months. Small sample here, only 7 sales, so read it as directional, but the signal is clear. In Cliffstone Hills, buyers are patient and so are sellers. Price holds, but timelines are also very long. Every family that we work with deserves to know what they're actually walking into before they make an offer. Not just the listing price, but the full picture of what every neighborhood is doing. That is not optional for us, that is the standard. Now, flip your assumption entirely and let's look at Lakes at Crockett Martin. In this neighborhood, it's also a deep seller territory of inventory. Very tight, only 4 active listings, 7 sales in the month of May. The median sales price is $215,000. Price per square foot, $124. Average days on market is 90 days. Median days on market is 53 days. The absorption rate is a meaningful percentage once again. And the sale to list ratio, 82.6%. On a sample of 7 sales, sellers in Lakes at Crockett Martin are accepting nearly 17.4% below their list price on average. This is the most extreme pricing gap in the data this month. So, did you catch that? Deep seller territory of inventory, basically no supply, and sellers are still landing nearly 18% below what they asked for. This is a market where demand exists, but seller pricing expectations are significantly out of line with what buyers will pay. The failure rate is 30%, lower than many of the balanced or softer pockets. That actually tells you that when a deal does get done here, it gets done, but the price has to come down first. If you're buying in Lakes at Crockett Martin, this is your signal. There's room to negotiate and the data backs you up, even in a low supply environment. Now, the other end of the seller's pocket spectrum. Here's what a clean seller's market looks like when the price discovery is working. Let's look at Harmony in spring. 2 months of inventory, still a seller's market. The median sold price in Harmony was $439,900 in May. The price per square foot was $159.62. Average days on market, 18 days. Median days on market, 15 days. Based on 7 sales, so again, take it directionally, but the average and median are closely aligned at 18 and 15 days. That tells us there are no outliers dragging things around. This market is consistently fast. And this honestly aligns with what I see out in the community because a lot of people are asking about this neighborhood. Now, the sale to list price ratio in Harmony was 99% in May. That means sellers are getting 99 cents on the dollar. The failure rate is 36.4%. This is what efficiency looks like. Low inventory, fast sales, sellers holding firm, buyers accepting near list prices. If you're searching in the Harmony area and you find something you want, waiting is a risk. At 2 months of inventory and homes closing in 15 days at the median, the window can close quickly. And then there's Woodlands Village at Cochran's Crossing. This is the fastest moving data in the entire set. 1.4 months of inventory, 11 active listings, median sales price of $837,200. Price per square foot, $258.92. Average days on market, 14 days. Median days on market, moving fast. Sale to list ratio, 98.4%. 10 days at the median based on 8 sales. This is a small sample, but the direction is very clear. At the upper end of this market in Cochran's Crossing, homes are moving in under 2 weeks. Sellers are getting 98.4% of list, and inventory is nearly non-existent. If you're a buyer looking in this part of the Woodlands, you are in a seller's market, full stop. Be prepared to move fast and come in strong. And here's what I know most people in this market are really sitting with. Not the number on the listing, but the deeper question underneath it. Are we picking the right area? That fear of choosing a neighborhood and getting it wrong. Of committing to a place only to find out later you misread the market. That's the real weight in this search. I hear it from people all the time, and it's a completely legitimate thing to carry. Now let's talk about the balanced and softer pockets. That was the seller side of the county, but remember, the countywide number is 4 months. That means there are pockets pulling toward the buyer's end too. Let's go there. Take Mavera, 4.1 months of inventory based on 9 sales, so state that caveat out loud. This is directional again. Median sales price in Mavera, $275,000. Price per square foot, $141.97. Average days on market, 82 days. Median days on market, 91 days. That's actually higher than the average, which is unusual. That tells us there are no extreme outliers inflating the average. In fact, more than half of the sales took longer than 82 days. The sale to list price ratio in Mavera, 92.5%. So sellers are landing 7.5% below list. The failure rate was 25% in May, lower than the countywide 45.8%, meaning when a deal gets written in Mavera, it does tend to stick. But the pricing gap is still meaningful. If you're looking to buy in Mavera, you're in a balanced market with real negotiating room on price. If you're a seller, price discovery is critical. The data says buyers are not meeting list price, so your opening number matters a lot. But here's where it gets interesting. Look at what happens when you go from Mavera across to Fox Run. Fox Run has 3.8 months of inventory, also balanced, so between that 3 and 6 mark. Median sales price, $235,000. Price per square foot, $131.55. Average days on market, 49 days. Median, 22 days. Again, a significant gap between the average and the median, which suggests some homes are sitting a very long time while others are moving quickly. The sale to list ratio in Fox Run is 99.4% based on just 5 sales, so again, a very small sample. But contrast this with Mavera for a moment. Both are in balanced territory on months of inventory, yet Fox Run sellers are getting 99.4% of list, while Mavera sellers are getting just 92.5%. Same market type on paper, very different price outcome. The failure rate in Fox Run is 50%. Exactly half of resolved listings did not sell. This is a meaningful signal. This is a neighborhood where sellers who price right are getting close to list, and sellers who price wrong are getting nothing. Now, if you've been watching this and you're thinking, okay, but what about the upper end of the balance range? What about where inventory is starting to stretch? This is where I want to pause for just a second. If you're a buyer in Montgomery County right now, trying to figure out whether your budget puts you in a seller's pocket or a balanced pocket, whether you need to move fast or you can take your time, that calculation changes everything about your approach. I put together a free guide in the description that shows exactly how to read these metrics for your own search, including how to know when you're in a position to negotiate and when you're not. It's really simple. It's just a framework. The link's in the description if you want to grab it. But let's keep going. Caney Mills and April Sound, balanced, but watch the price gap. Caney Mills has 3.4 months of inventory, which is balanced. Median sales price, $230,000. Price per square foot, $129.35. Average days on market, 57 days. Median, 51 days. So those are closely aligned. There's no outlier distortion here. And this was based on a sample of 8 sales in the month of May. The sale to list ratio in Caney Mills was 88.2%. This is a significant gap. Sellers in Caney Mills are landing nearly 12 points below list on average. Failure rate is 40%. So 4 in 10 listings here did not sell. If you put it all together, that's a significant pricing gap, a meaningful failure rate, and a balanced supply. So this is really a neighborhood where buyer patience is being rewarded on price. But sellers need to be realistic from day one. April Sound up by Lake Conroe flips the story a bit. 2.9 months of inventory, this one sits right on the seller's market threshold. The median sales price in May was $370,000, price per square foot $163.86, average days on market 55 days, and the median was 29 days based on 14 sales. The sale to list ratio in April Sound was 98%. Sellers are getting close to list price. So that aligns with the tight supply. But the failure rate in April Sound was 57.6%, meaning more than half of resolved listings didn't sell. But hold that thought. How do you have a seller's market on months of inventory and a failure rate above 57%? That tells you not every seller here is priced right. The inventory is low enough that well-priced homes move. But overpriced listings are not just sitting, they're failing. The right price seller in April Sound wins. The overpriced seller gets punished. Now for some outliers, Castle's Edge and Woodlands Village of Panther Creek. Castle's Edge has 3 months of inventory right at the seller market boundary. The median sales price, $168,990. Price per square foot, $165.04. Average days on market, 77 days. Median is 92 days, which is unusual. When the median is higher than average, it means most homes took longer than the typical deal, but a few quick sales pulled the average down. But the sale to list ratio, 100.3% based on 5 sales. Buyers in Castle's Edge are paying just above list price on average. That is a seller's market pricing behavior. For the entry-level price point in this county, this is a very meaningful number. Our whole approach with clients is to make sure you understand not just what the data says, but what it means for the specific decision you're facing. You deserve more than a summary number. You deserve to know if your neighborhood is one of the places where you need to move fast or one of the places where you can negotiate, because those are completely different strategies. Now let's look at one of the cleanest examples in the whole data set, Woodlands Village of Panther Creek. 2.5 months of inventory, so it's definitely a seller's market. The median sales price is a bit higher, $559,000. Price per square foot is $232.99 on average. Average days on market, 24 days, but the median is just 4 days. 4 days. That is crazy. At the median, homes in Woodlands Village of Panther Creek are going under contract in just 4 days. That is not a balanced market pace. That is urgency. And that's based on 14 sales, which is a solid sample for a month. Going right along with the trend, the sale to list ratio is 100.6%. Buyers are paying over list price. The failure rate is 30%, the absorption rate is 40%. This is what a seller's market in action looks like. Low inventory, extremely fast pace, buyers paying above asking price. If you're looking in this part of the Woodlands, bring your best offer and be ready to move the same week you see the listing. And then there's Pine Lake Cove, which is one of the most interesting combinations in the data. Pine Lake Cove has 2.1 months of inventory, which is a seller's market. Median sales price just under that $300,000 mark. Price per square foot, $144.41. Average days on market, 98 days. Median, 56 days. And the sale to list ratio here, topping the charts at 101.1% based on 13 sales. Buyers here are paying over list price on average in a neighborhood where the average days on market is 98 days. That just sounds like a walking contradiction. But the 56-day median tells you the story. There's a split inside Pine Lake Cove between homes that move quickly at or above list and a long tail of homes sitting much longer. The ones that are priced right and show well are getting over list offers. The ones that aren't are sitting for months. That's a precision market. Get it right and you win. Get it wrong and you wait. All right, let's put this all together because here is the picture. Within the same county in the same month, you have Cliffstone Hills at deep seller territory of inventory and Lakes at Crockett Martin right in the same position, right alongside Fox Run at 3.8 months and Mavera at 4.1 months. You have Woodlands Village of Panther Creek with a 4-day median under contract time and sellers getting over list, sitting in the same county as Caney Mills where sellers are landing 11.8% below asking price. That is not one market. That is a map with completely different territories sprinkled all over it. So here's the clarity, and I'm gonna be straight with you on each side. If you're a buyer looking in the seller's pockets, which in this video are Harmony, Cochran's Crossing, Panther Creek, Chapel Run, Pine Lake Cove, Cliffstone Hills, you need to understand that waiting is not a strategy. Inventory is thin and the competition is real, and pricing in these pockets reflects that. Know your number and your maximum and be ready to make a move. You may not have the ability to negotiate down significantly. But if you're a buyer looking at the balance pockets, Mavera, Fox Run, April Sound, and Caney Mills, you have more time and more room. The data says buyers in these areas are getting meaningful discounts off list price. Use that. Get an inspection, take your time on the offer, and negotiate. The sellers here are not in control the way that they are in a tight pocket. If you're a seller though, listen carefully. The 45.8% countywide failure rate is not just a headline number, it's the sound of overpriced listings failing to close. Whether you're in a seller's pocket or a balanced pocket, the sellers who are winning are the ones priced correctly from day one. The sellers who are failing priced for the market they wish they were in, not the one they're actually in. And if you're trying to figure out which area is right for you, whether you're moving up, moving in from outside the state, or just trying to get into your first place here in Montgomery County, the answer is not in the headline. The answer is in the neighborhood by neighborhood data. Know which side of this split your target area sits on. Then build your strategy around it. That question, are we picking the right area, is the right question. And the answer starts with the data we just walked through. The areas that feel calm on the surface are not all the same underneath. Now, one thing I want you to take away from this video, knowing the countywide number is a starting point, not a strategy. The real edge is in the neighborhood level data, and today, hopefully I've shown you exactly what that looks like here across Montgomery County. But here's what comes next, and this one is worth watching before you make any decision on where in the county to buy. If you've been looking at Clopton Farms or any of the new build communities here in Montgomery County where you're choosing between lot sizes, I put together a full breakdown of how a 50-foot versus a 60 or a 70-foot home in Clopton Farms really breaks down. And it can be a huge, drastic difference in price. The numbers surprised my whole team when we ran it. That video is live now. It's in the description right below. The free guide I mentioned earlier is also in the description, and it has the framework to run these numbers for your own situation if you want to go deeper before you watch.